So, we are discussing matters of climate, and so we felt it's good to go green. That's why you can see any program printed or on the table. We'll be sharing the program online with all of us, but I want to quickly just ensure that you have a feel of what we have for the day. So, this activity that is organized by the National Gender and Equality Commission and in collaboration with the State Department for Gender, with support from them Trust and Femnet. It's about repositioning special interest groups in climate actions. We are all doing something, either something on climate or working for the special interest groups. So we want to match the two, and I know our CEO will be talking more about that, so let me not preempt that. And so we've already done our prayers, and we'll be acknowledging shortly the people who are represented here. Then immediately or within that space, we will look at the objectives and the welcoming remarks from our very new CEO, Dr. Purity Gena. And then we'll do the remarks as they appear in the program, having Femnet Gem Trust. Then the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action. We'll have Madam Jacqueline Nekesa, who serves two slots here. One as the Director of Gender and also as the National Gender Focal Person who represents Kenya globally. Then we have also our Commissioner, Commissioner Caroline Lenteburu, also give remarks, and then the key remarks by our acting chairperson, Commissioner Thomas Foyel. Then after that, we'll go for break, and immediately we'll start having presentation or having a deep dive on what has brought us here. So first is to look at the status of gender and inclusion, integration in climate policy. So that we ask ourselves, where are we in terms of integration of matters of marginalized groups in climate, especially the climate policy. So what do we have in the Act, what do we have in other frameworks, and where do we want to take this discussion as key stakeholders? Then we'll also look at greater integration of special interest groups. So as much as we understand gender, what are these other special interest groups that we need to integrate in the climate change actions? What is our feel as the Gender Commission, and what is our appeal going forward? Then we will have now, just a quick update or a convincing speech from Daisy Amdani. Just trying to look at why do we need to have women in the climate decision making, So where are we and why do we feel that it's very important? Then the program director from ICASA will also take us through the Alliance for Women with Disability. This is a very new program or project that we feel we all need to take part in and support the alliance that has already been established. I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Then all of us now will take part. As much as this is interactive, we'll have a moderated group, and in this moderated group, what we want is for you to give us inputs on what are some of the inputs you want to appear in the National Gender Climate Change Action. So by the time we get into the group work, we will all have understood what we are looking for. And then what are some of the activities or achievements that you've achieved from your different organizations or different institutions, and what is it that you have planned between now and 2025? So that then we are able to monitor and we are also able to guide the integration of special interest groups in climate space. And we end up with next steps and growth of them. So we will be sharing this. You've given us your email address And by the time we go 14, you'll have the program with you. So at this point in time, you'll allow me to welcome our CEO, Dr. Purity Gina, to lead us in the next session.
Good morning. Our acting chairperson, Commissioner Thomas Goyel, Commissioner Caroline Entupuro, this executive directors present, the representative of the PS from State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's such an exciting day for us, and why it is exciting is because whatever we are discussing, I think for me is very central and very timely. And before I go to the remarks or the objectives, I wanted to first just focus on one of our special interest group, children. And personally, my mind talk more with data. And I got this that happened in May. And I can just read two paragraphs. As of May 10, 2024, an estimated 267 people had been killed, 188 injured, and 75 missing, while 281,835 people were displaced. This is when we had the floods. And goes on to say that the government had said that for school to be reopened, it needed 1 billion Kenya shillings to rehabilitate the school, which had been destroyed by floods. There were around 62 primary school. And I think this, if we all recall, this happened in May and June, even we went to school, our children went back to school 2 weeks later. And so when that time was happening, so I just focused on children. Children went back to school later, but you can imagine that most of us in this country are in the informal sector. When there were floods, no one was going to work, isn't it? Or if they were going, it was really a hassle because you didn't know what is likely to happen. So most of our mothers were affected, especially in the villages, in the informal sector. Most of the families went without food. If you think about the youth who make up we are 75% of Kenyans are below the age of 35 and 43 below the age of 18. So we are looking at around 17 million of Kenyans who are young people, and probably many of them in the informal sector. So for sure then, I would say with a lot of confidence that I am happy that we are discussing this today and asking ourselves, what is the action we need to take? Where is the roadmap? And I'll be happy to see that document so that we can start thinking how we move forward, how we safeguard ourselves and safeguard our country and safeguard our people from all the shocks that are likely to happen due to climate issues. And also ask ourselves, how do we support them in the long run? How do we make it sustainable so that it's not reaction? We don't react when issues come, but we are ready and prepared for those issues. So I was told to give welcome remarks. So feel welcome, contribute, bring your spirits to this conversation, forget everything else. There are 4 rules that I think are very important. Is first to speak from your heart. You don't have to pre-plan what you're going to say. Just speak it, say it. It will really help the groups and the conversation and the documents that will come from it. Also listen from your heart. If someone is speaking, really be present. Listen to what they are saying, but from within you. And that is why for me, when I read these statistics, they bring me back to the issue, to the problem that we are tackling. So it's not just climate issues. These are big problems and it is affecting all of us. So ensure you're speaking from your heart, you're listening from your heart, but also be spontaneous. Usipange your point at nitasema hivi ile masaa. Just say it when that time comes. Be spontaneous, you don't have to plan it. it helps in the discussion, because if you plan for it, maybe you're fearing the next person how they are going to judge, so you write your points. You want the English to be perfect. That is not what we are looking for. We are looking for a document that works for all of us. So I think that is principle number 3. And the last one is just be here. I think if you are using your heart, then the fourth one will just be automatic, that you're going to be really present in those conversations. And so I don't want to take a lot of time so that we go to the real meat of the day and the real object of the day. So I'll go to the objectives. There are 2 objectives. And they really aligns with National Gender and Equality Commission and what we do. We are supposed to promote equality and inclusion. And through the lenses of 6 special interest groups, that is children, and that is the group for me I concentrated with. We have youth, who make the majority of this country. We have women. Statistics continue to show that women still suffers a lot, especially when you have issues of those shocks, uncertainties. They affect more women because of the role we play in our homes. We have persons with disability, really also a vulnerable group, and the minorities and marginalized communities. There are still communities who probably are yet to enjoy all the privileges that other communities have, and the older members of this society. And so the question then, and the objective of today, is to reposition SIGs in climate action. So how can those groups that we have mentioned also be part of finding the solution? How do we strategize? How do we develop actionable plans for placing vulnerable groups at the center of climate investment? They suffer the most, but sometimes the conversations are lost. And I'm happy if we have few members of those groups represented here, because some of the actions we need to take, we should ask ourselves, are they going to work for them? So it's not just a boardroom action developed, but also going back to those people and asking yourself, so this action is going to serve my grandmother who is probably 80 years? Is it going to serve my brother in the village? Is it going to serve my child who is in the village in Garissa, who has probably been left behind for many years? Or even other communities, Sanye communities in Tana River and the others. So that is very important, that the actions that we are going to propose, let them work for those people. So it has to be something tangible, something worth implementing, something possible and feasible. And then we address the gaps and the challenges. So we are going to examine the existing gaps and challenges in the integration of gender equality and inclusion within climate actions. And of course, we are going to consolidate inputs from stakeholders to inform the country reports that will be represented in COP29. So I think those are very critical objectives, that whatever we do will be presented, and then it will be us then to ask ourselves, we propose a document, but we have a role to play to ensure that it is no longer even in our boardroom, but also supporting the SIGs. I don't want to take a lot of time. As Nyambura has said, we'll also share some of these objectives, and even in the group, we'll keep reminding ourselves, why are we here? Why are we doing this? What is the outcome past the output? The output would be presenting a document during the COP29. But what is the outcome? What do we see by the end of the day? I think for me that is also very critical, so that we see the bigger picture beyond the output. And with that many remarks, allow me also to do my other piece of work, where I will invite colleagues to share their remarks. And I'll start with Ann Tech. Ann is going to give remarks on behalf of the Executive Director of Femnet. And clap for her as she comes. Thank you. morning.
Morning.
Good morning once again.
Morning.
On behalf of Femnet CEO, I want to thank you for inviting us to this meeting. The leadership of the Gender Commission, all the partners present here, all protocols observed. Good morning once again. On behalf of the Executive Director of Femnet, who is not here today, I wish to thank the host and partners for inviting us to partner here and participate in this noble task today. I wish to congratulate the Gender Commission and the Ministry and the Department of Gender for bringing us together to discuss the issues of climate change and gender. Pan-African Women and Development Network, FEMNET, is a membership organization. We have over 800 members across Africa, and we've been advocating for issues of gender for the past 38 years now. And we work on 5 areas. We're looking at economic rights for women. We work on issues of transformative women leadership, young girls program, sexual and reproductive rights, and climate justice program. And specifically on climate justice, we've been supporting African women across Africa on capacity building on climate change issues. We've been working closely with government on issues of policies, and also on movement building across Africa, so that we ensure that women have voice on climate change issues. Women and girls experience the greatest impact of climate change, which amplifies existing gender inequalities and poses unique threats to their livelihoods, health, and safety. And according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and Gender, on climate change, gender inequalities are further exaggerated by climate-related hazards, and they result in higher workloads for women, occupational hazards, indoors and outdoors, psychological and emotional stress, and higher mortality compared to men. As we speak, we are currently leading in doing consultation for Beijing at 30. Remember the Beijing platform, and we've noted that under climate change and environment, there's so much that needs to be done by African women. And so we need to come as partners and put more efforts on this agenda. We just came from the SB 60, the Substar 60 in Bonjam the other day, and we note that there was no commitment, especially from the development world, on financing and implementation of the Gender Action Plan. So with this in mind, we wish therefore as FEMNET to collaborate with the government, the Commission, and other partners to ensure that we develop and implement the Gender Action Plan and use the same model in other African countries. You're aware that Kenya is one of the leading countries in implementation of climate change action. So we want to use this model and use it and amplify in other countries as well. We want to support capacity building and knowledge development on gender responsive climate change policies, budgets, and programs as well. We are also looking forward to working together in supporting mechanisms that help advance gender equality, human rights, and climate justice. And also we are encouraging and we also want to work together in facilitating participation of women in policy processes at the local and at the international level. We also want to advocate against social-cultural norms and beliefs among African communities that affect participation of vulnerable groups in climate action, especially on land issues. You know well that land is key in advancing the climate action. So we wish to call upon our partners to ensure that we work against these norms, especially on access to land by women. And lastly, we wish to collaborate in pushing for fast tracking and implementation of the Lima Work Program on Gender and the Gender Action Plan. And lastly, where most of us forget is Africans have their own narratives on climate justice. We need to build that to ensure that those narratives influence policy and call for action. So with that, thank you so much, and
We wish you a very deliberate conference today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne, for those remarks. There's need to advocate for change of these discriminatory social norms. I think for me, I'm going to take that home and ask myself what actions do I need to take. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to invite our next speaker from Gem Trust, Gladys Kiyo, who is the Executive Director.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Commissioner Thomas again, Commissioner Caroline and Tupur. I have to practice that one. CEO Purity Ngina, directors from the different agencies, and all participants. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning once again. Good morning. I want to give my sincere gratitude to the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action and to the Commission for allowing this platform. I thank you because we know participation is guaranteed in law, but the intention to have it and to have meaningful participation is another thing. So thank you so much for this platform and for allowing the collaboration and for people to bring and the diverse members here to bring their voices to this very important conversation. As we are all aware, the conversation around climate change is very current. It is in all the lips, in the communities, in policy making spaces, for governments, our leaders are talking about it. One of the things, and I'm speaking as a woman, I'm speaking as a representative of a women's rights organization, one of the things that we have seen is that the conversation on climate change has not centered the voices of women in so many ways. That is a key concern for us because when you look at the role of a woman, traditional or otherwise, they are the drivers of livelihood. And that means they're in constant interaction with a key factor of production called land. And women provide another key factor of production called labor. Land is one of the resources that is greatly impacted by climate change. And this person who is in constant interaction with that factor of production is not at the center of the conversation. So we might greatly miss out on the challenges, we might greatly miss out on the solutions because this voice is missing. So I stand here first to appreciate this space that allows us as women to bring our voices to this space, to provide experiences, to provide possible solutions so that we can mitigate and adapt appropriately. One of the things that I want to urge all of us to do moving forward in various spaces that we are in, and I'm speaking specifically to duty bearers, is to ensure that we center the gender agenda in climate change. One of the key lessons we are bringing here is that in conversations around trade, in conversation about education, about health, we have played catch up on the gender agenda. That means that we develop policies, we develop programs that do not have the gender agenda at the center, and then midway, we find that we are not achieving the way we set out to achieve. And then when we ask ourselves why, it is because we left a significant segment of the population out. So to avoid that pitfall, because we have learned, and in some situations we have learned the hard way, is to ensure that we center the gender agenda within the climate conversation as young and as vibrant and as robust as it is now. And I want to say that one of the things as an organization, as Gem Trust, we are doing to achieve that, we've collaborated with the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action to develop the National Gender and Climate Change Action Plan. I know the director who is here will speak to that matter more incisively, but again, just to know all of us to ensure that that agenda And I'm speaking about gender, not just women. I appreciate as a woman and a person who wakes up every morning to deal with the gender issue that women are disproportionately affected. But we have also learned that when women move alone and we do not have men on the table, we might still need to do the catch up again. So I'm speaking about the gender agenda very deliberately and with a very deep appreciation that we will need to listen to women more, but we also need to listen to them. So having that perspective will go a long way in ensuring that we respond, we adapt, and we mitigate appropriately to the issues of climate change. Lastly, I just once again to thank the State Department for Gender and the Commission for this platform. Again, I know this is an accountability space. I am happy that conversations here will be find their way into conversations for those who are preparing for COP. That is also very critical to ensure those who negotiate on our behalf as Kenyan citizens, negotiate with our voices in mind, negotiate with the felt concerns, with the real issues that we're going to discuss in this space today, in that space. Please, those of us who are here and who will make their way into that table, carry the concerns that will come out of this meeting with the weight that it serves and represent us well. We have trust that that will happen. Thank you very much, and I do wish all of us fruitful and good deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gladys, ensuring that we have meaningful participation within this conversation. And yeah, thank you. So I was just reflecting before I invite the director on this young lady, now I think she's not very young, who started Greta Thunberg, who started the school strikes for climate action. I don't know whether some of you follow her. She has delivered two speeches that makes everybody on the table uncomfortable. If you remember the speech of "How dare you?" And she questions our world leaders, how dare them ignore that we are having. This is a real crisis. And the last speech that I listened from her was the speech of blah, blah, blah. So I'm cognizant of those two, and I wouldn't want them not to speak to me, because that's why we need to ensure that as we come up with the actions, will not just be actions that cannot be implemented. Let's remember those great speakers, young children, who are showing us the way, and they want us on the table to represent them. So, ladies and gentlemen, this event wouldn't have been possible without the collaboration between the State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action, and we recognize the role they play, and what Gladys said about gender not just being women. I know State Department has a thematic cluster of men involvement and engagement in the process of ensuring that we achieve all the issues that we put forward, and men plays a very important role. So I know Jacqueline, who will be representing the PS and on this conversation, probably will speak more on how their strategic plan, which I've read is very progressive, is going to support and make Gladys comfortable on the involvement of men in the process. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce and welcome Jacqueline Nekesa, Director Gender from State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action, but she's also the National Gender Focal Point. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Commissioners from the National Gender and Equality Commission, representatives from different state and non-state institutions here, all protocols observed. I'm very delighted to be speaking to you this morning. First, allow me to relay the greetings of our Principal Secretary, PS Annual Ngombe. She would have loved to be here, but she had another engagement in the morning, so she was not able to be here, but she gave me a go ahead to speak to you on her behalf without official talking notes. And I appreciate that the CEO for the the National Gender and Equality Commission has pointed out that we speak from the heart. I think that makes it very easier, other than reading a speech. So thank you very much. So I just want to say that it was very interesting how this meeting was conceptualized. And for those of you who follow climate discussions, you know that right now we are in a season that is very busy, getting ready for the upcoming COP29, which will be happening in November in Baku. Those of you who don't know Baku, in a country called Azerbaijan, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it correctly. Yes, where is it? In the map? Next to Russia, next to, some people say it's next to Ukraine. Yes, so that is where the COP will be happening. And so there are quite a number of preparatory meetings going on. Just last week, there was an African strategy meeting, a regional strategy meeting for the COP, which was convened by the African group of negotiators, expert support, and I can see Lynn there, you can wave. She's representing Agnes. So it brought together negotiators of different thematic areas in the climate agenda from, I think it was 34 countries represented last week at ECA here in Nairobi. So those are some of the preparations going on, including as we speak, there's already a Kenya country position workshop that has started this morning, and some of us are supposed to be there, but we learn to multitask. So in the conceptualization of this meeting, and we learn little small steps as we go ahead in this agenda. So a few of us are active in the sector, including representing Kenya on the global platform, but we feel that the voices from from Kenya, from our local citizens, are very important. So we thought, why don't we have a stakeholders meeting, bringing together different groups, women's rights organizations, youth organizations, persons with disability, marginalized and minority groups, indigenous peoples, to just hear voices, so that for those of us in the room who are actively engaged in the process can then voice those voices on behalf, because you know that we can't all be in that convening that is being spearheaded by the Climate Change Directorate under the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. So that's why we thought it's important. I know we did this hurriedly, but this is also a lesson that as we go ahead, we do it earlier in advance in a more coordinated way, but we still value the discussions that will go on today, and we know that even if not so much, in a big way, they'll inform what goes into our country position and ultimately in the negotiations. So that's how we thought we should have this convening, and thanks to the commission, they were very responsive in collaborating with us, and then our partners, Gem Trust, Femnet, and others here in the room that were able to support us to have this today. So we really appreciate, and we also appreciate that you are able to come in within such a short notice. So just again reflecting on some of the speakers' sentiments that have gone ahead, Madam CEO has mentioned about how the floods affected children and the people in the informal sectors. But I know it's interesting that for the first time, even those in the suburbs were actually affected. How many of you remember seeing someone on a boat? Was it in Situsuru?
Yes.
Or, you know, it was a sight to behold. So when we talk about climate change, it's actually cutting across, irrespective of your socioeconomic standing. However, we are recognizing that in terms of resilience and bouncing back, of course, those with economic muscle bounce back faster and better than those in the informal and lower socioeconomic status, because someone in Runda, in Kistusuri, in Lavington can maybe afford an apartment to stay for a few days as they sort themselves out. But in the informal settlement, you know, even just affording the basics is a problem. So of course that affects resilience. So that's why we have to go deeper to really categorize the vulnerabilities that we encounter irrespective of our socioeconomic standing. So, and then allow me also to mention that last week, for the first time in my life, I was in Mandera County. How many of you have been in Mandera? Very few. For whatever reason, some of you are scared. You know, I was there, but now I'm no longer scared. It's actually Kenya, and we should visit there. So Mandera has this beautiful initiative, and I hope you saw the governor of Mandera receiving a prize at global level for his greening initiative in Mandera. Actually, what I saw in Mandera, I couldn't believe that is the Mandera I know. They have really planted trees, and not just planting, actually growing. So in the evening, you have an opportunity to walk around and you see men, women, young people watering those trees. And this is Mandera with water scarcity, but they are watering trees. So how about us? You know, it rained, you know, last night and all that, and all we see is concrete jungles. You know, I think it will take personal initiatives for us to really fight this climate change scourge if we really have to secure the future for our generations. So I think, you know, just to mention that even as we face impacts of climate change, you can imagine the amount of heat that usually hits Mandera during the drought. But I could feel with the tree, you even feel yes, it's hot, but the air is so nice, so green. So I think we need to emulate Mandera and also do our climate initiatives in our small little ways as we go along. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to tire you, and later on we shall be delving deeper into the issues around development of the National Gender and Climate Change Action Plans that we are doing, and we'll make sure it's as participatory as it's possible for purposes of inclusivity. But also, I shall be later sharing with you some of the expectations that we are, handling as we prepare for the upcoming COP29, so that then we have a collective voice even as we participate at that global space. So thank you so much, and I wish us fruitful deliberations.
Thank you so much, Director Jacqueline Ekesa, for speaking from the heart. And you remember during last census, when we were asked whether you own a boat, we all laughed. And I'm sure the next one now you will actually take the question more seriously. And I reflect on the people who had come up with those questions. I think they had seen fun. So ladies and gentlemen, we have been told it's about collective action, collective responsibility, and hence probably in future we shall have collective impact and we shall all be proud of. So thank you so much, Director Jacqueline Ekesa. Allow me to now invite Commissioner Caroline Ntupuru, who will give her remarks. She's a lady that for me, her stories inspires me. So Commissioner, karibu.
Thank you, CEO. Commissioner Koyet, the, the, the Game Trust represent the leader of delegation for Game Trust and Feminet, the State Department, Nekesa, representing the PS, and all of us here representing many institutions that whose the list I have here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, the CEO struggles to get my name right, and Gladys as well. But today they did it so well, and for that I owe you. Yeah, don't put pressure on me after this meeting. I will deliver at my own convenience. So thank you so much. It gives me great joy to be part of you today. I'm so grateful that we have gathered around in this conference room to discuss about inclusion of the special interest groups on climate change matters. This is because this is the constituency of the Kenyan population. People that have been left behind, people that have been impacted so negatively and so hard by climate change, which is a global crisis. She said it's a very common discussion in the villages, in the cities, and everywhere. And indeed, the impacts are felt everywhere. Because I like to put it, everybody is vulnerable, but there are those that are more vulnerable than others. And so I'm grateful that the Commission, together with the State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action, have been able to bring us all together. National Gender and Equality Commission has put a mandate indeed to organize for or to facilitate consultative meetings on issues affecting the special interest groups, which are the children, the youth, women, persons with disability, the elderly, as well as the minority and marginalized groups. So because it's not been possible to bring all of them on the table, it's very wise, and thank you so much, the technical teams that worked on this to ensure that we have those organizations that represent them, organizations that work with those special interest groups. And from the list here, I could see those that are in mainstream gender work, Feminet, Game Trust, and many others that even cross-cut. I see Women Challenge to Challenge. I see also government, the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum is here. The Office of the Deputy President is well represented. We have CALRO, and so government is here as well as private. I've seen KEPSA Foundation, because the private also have got a role to play. And for me, I would see them as good in facilitating through their CSR those community-led initiatives by these special interest groups on to adapt to climate change. I see organizations like CARE Kenya, Agnes Africa, Agnes Africa trained National Gender and Equality Commission to be negotiators. And I am a beneficiary. I salute you. Where are you? I salute you. Now, these days I know what some of these terminologies mean, and courtesy of you, thank you very much. Kindly train more of us so that we can negotiate. If we don't go to the international level, we can do it at community and even at the national level. We truly appreciate. And I was lucky to participate in a webinar which was virtual, organized by ICCACA, which my good friend Tabitha calls ICASA. ICASA, she reported here that it's new. I didn't know it was very new. But indeed what they are doing, what they have started doing is so impressive. And for me, I said if I get the platform today, I'll call upon our civil society groups, those that are representing the special interest groups, to take agency and see how, for us as special interest groups, we participate in these decision-making processes. So what I heard the CASA report is that they had a call for applications for the women who have disability, women with disabilities, because they actually want to facilitate them to go to that country. What was the country again? Whatever it is, that we have a delegation of Kenyans and that special interest group to go and participate, because they need to be at the table. And so I call upon Agnes now to collaborate with the ICASA to train them so that next time when they go knowing exactly what to expect. So the more I went through that training by Agnes, the more I realized, oh, we talk of climate change and we don't know really what it is. We really need to have capacity building so that we can be able to talk from an informed point of view. We really appreciate all of you that have come. We call on you to take action, see how you can facilitate those groups. The delegations, even if you start with 5 this year and additional next time, it will be good for them to go and see what is happening and see how they can influence. It will be great, a great thing for Kenya, a great thing for our communities, and as a special interest groups, because there is a lot that is happening. And indeed, we need inclusivity, not only in policy, but also in these processes, also in